Up next, it's Truth or Fake. Catalina Marchand Abreu is here in studio. Catalina, you're staying with this story for us, the French no confidence vote. Is the government headed towards a US-style shutdown? Tell us more.
Well, Michel Barnier did not even make it through the winter after earlier this week he anticipated the lack of majority to vote on his Social Security 2025 budget. So the former Prime Minister used Article 49.3 of the Constitution to try to force the text through without a vote. In response, the four left-wing groups of the Nouveau Front Populaire coalition, as well as the far-right Rassemblement National, have both filed in motions of no confidence against Michel Barnier's government. Together, these votes have led to the fall of Barnier's government, hence bearing this procedure for adopting the 2025 budget measures. So first of all, which budgetary text are we talking about? These include, first of all, the finance bill, which defines the government's budget for 2025, the Social Security financing bill, which sets the budget for various branches of the Social Security system, and finally, the end of the year finance bill, which contains provisions essential to budget management at the end of 2024. However, without a budget voted and enacted by the deadline of December 31st, 2024, public administrations in France would be unable to pay civil servants, government suppliers, or bills, which seems to be a shutdown scenario unprecedented in modern French political history.
Is that shutdown scenario, is it inevitable though, Catalina?
It's being called le shutdown here in France. This is the alarmist scenario that was evoked by former French Prime Minister Élisabeth Borne during a televised interview here in France, where she said, and I quote, that if Social Security budgets were to be censored, this means that on January 1st, your health insurance card no longer works. It means pensions are no longer paid and that civil servants are no longer paid after a while, she says. So this would be similar to what is a U.S. shutdown, where each year two chambers of the United States Congress, that is the House of Representatives and the Senate, vote on the federal government's funding bill for the coming year before October. If the two chambers do not agree by that date, funding for public services and paying employees is actually no longer authorized and non-essential government activities are suspended. This is called a U.S. government shutdown. However, there is no fear of a U.S.-style shutdown here in France. This scenario actually seems unlikely, even if the Social Security 2025 finance bill is not adopted by the Parliament in time on that deadline of December 31st, since France's constitution protects the country from this shutdown scenario.
And Catalina, what can the outgoing government or the French Parliament do to avoid that kind of thing happening, that shutdown scenario that you speak about?
Well, there are three possible emergency procedures that can be enacted right now to avoid a shutdown. First of all, France can activate what is Article 47 of the Constitution, which allows the government, or even possibly a caretaker government, to pass an emergency law and enact its budget bill without a vote. That is, if Parliament has not voted on this bill within 70 days. So if the Parliament does not legislate, the government is actually entitled to do so. Hence, no risk of shutdown. The provision relating to Social Security will always be applied, whether they are adopted by Parliament or decided by the government. Then there's another measure to avoid a government shutdown. That is Article 45 of the French Constitution. In the event of a no vote on the 2025 budget bill, what's called a special bill can be passed authorizing the executive to continue to collect taxes until this vote goes through, making it therefore possible to draw a budget similar to that of last year's 2024 to avoid a shutdown. And as it stands, this article has a good chance of being adopted by the National Assembly. And as a last resort, if all else fails, highly unlikely, Article 16 of the French Constitution, granting Emmanuel Macron, the President of the Republic, exceptional powers when the functioning, as they say, the functioning of the constitutional powers is interrupted, as would be in the case of a shutdown. Marine Le Pen has a less alarmist vision than that of Élisabeth Borne. She told Le Figaro that there's no risk of an American-style shutdown in the event of a no vote on France's 2025 budget. She considers that France will have the budget next year, favoring actually, as we saw, the scenario of Article 45, which we just explained. If the budget does not pass, it is last year's budget that will apply. She says less bad than the one proposed for 2025, since there are fewer taxes weighing on the middle class and working class. So the government can present this special law, she says, to collect taxes from January 1st in order to pay civil servants in France, which is the likely scenario, avoiding any type of government shutdown. So even though shutdown is not technically impossible, it is actually highly unlikely, and false to say that the French government risks a US-style government shutdown.
Catalina, thank you so much for taking us through all of that. Well, that is it from us for now. Do stay with us, though. We'll be right back.
France's national